Hello, everyone. This is the CircuitPython Weekly for July 13th, 2020. It's the time of the week where we get together to talk about all things CircuitPython. This is my first week running the meeting, so please bear with me as we go through the process. I'm Jeff Epler, and I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python designed to run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. Development of CircuitPython is primarily sponsored by Adafruit, so support them by purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting is hosted on the Adafruit Discord server. You can join anytime by going to adafru.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython text channel and the CircuitPython voice channel. This meeting typically happens on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, but the date occasionally varies for U.S. holidays. We have an online calendar. If you'd like to be notified about the meetings on Discord, let us know and we will add you to the CircuitPythonistas role. The length of the meeting varies, but it's often from 60 to 90 minutes long. This meeting is recorded and will be posted to YouTube and also released on various podcast services. If you find the podcast is not available on your favorite podcast service, let us know. The recording includes the text in the CircuitPython text channel and the audio from the CircuitPython audio channel. The meeting is accompanied by a notes document. If you wish to participate but don't have a mic, or just prefer not to have your voice recorded for any reason, you can add your updates to the notes doc and we'll read them off. If you can't attend at all, you can leave your notes in advance and likewise we'll read them for you. The document is updated with time codes so that if you want to watch or listen to just part of the meeting after the fact, you can skip right to what you're interested in. If you're just listening in, please let us know that you're lurking so we can skip over you during the round-robin portions of the meeting. If possible, please update the notes document. If not, let us know by saying just listening or lurking in the text channel. This meeting is held in 5 parts. First, community news, with links to CircuitPython projects and a preview of the Python on Hardware newsletter. Second, the state of CircuitPython libraries in Blinka. We'll look at numbers that summarize the health of our project and get a high-level summary of recent developments and future directions. Third, and the first of 2 round-robin sections, is Hug Reports. In Hug Reports, we invite you to highlight positive contributions from the awesome folks around us. In the round-robin sections, we'll start with the moderator and continue in alphabetical fashion until everyone has had a chance to speak. If you're lurking, we'll skip over you. And if you have notes, the moderator will read them aloud. Fourth, status updates. It's a round-robin just like Hug Reports. During status updates, we invite community members to take a few minutes to talk about their CircuitPython-related work, progress, and plans. Feel free to chime in with quick tips or advice as appropriate. Quick questions and answers are perfect for this section, but for longer discussions, we would like you to take it to the next and final section, In the Weeds. For topics that are more open-ended, this is the section where we can discuss them. If you have something else you'd like to discuss, please add it to the end of the In the Weeds section of the notes document as soon as you think of it, and tag it with your name so we'll know who's starting the discussion. We cover topics in the weeds in the order in which they were added to the document. With that, we will continue to community news. So the community news is kind of a preview of the weekly newsletter and sometimes some special highlights that, that I find interesting. The first thing that I want to cover is that we will hold CircuitPython Day on September 9/9/2020. So stay tuned for more information and let us know what you'd like to see on CircuitPython Day. A Summer of Making. GitHub is working with Hack Club students to sponsor the Summer of Making. $50,000 in hardware will be given to teenage makers around the world. If you're a teenager, tell them what you want to build this summer to get some electronics to support you. Need inspiration? Check out what hackers like Lambda, Aurora, and Prithul are building. And there are some links that are going to land in the Discord chat about that. This one I was excited to see. There is a wireless and USB-C powered CircuitPython keyboard. Maker Diary has developed this mechanical keyboard using the nRF52820 microcontroller, and it has connectivity both through USB-C and BLE Bluetooth. And it now runs CircuitPython, so it's fully customizable. Just drop a new file onto the flash drive that the board presents. And there are links to a site where you can pre-order it. And they also have a GitHub. The Adafruit Discord server, that's you, has surpassed 22,000 members. This is the place where we do all of our CircuitPython development in the open, as well as just generally support one another. And it offers a unique way for us to connect. So if you haven't done it already, because you're listening to this podcast after the fact, please join us today at adafru.it/discord. Recently, Maker Melissa posted a YouTube video on how you build a custom animated LED sign assembly. Covers the assembly of the sign and everything you need to build the hardware. CircuitPython snakes its way onto solderless breadboards with the Serpano. It will, I don't know what this board is. It has a LED display, plugs right into your solderless breadboard, wires up the grounds and the power, and looks like it just does everything. Yeah, also includes an LCD for data visualization. Another upcoming board for CircuitPython is called the Orange Crab Fpga, which apparently has an immense amount of RAM available. I guess that's its big selling point. And finally, there is a blog now running on solar power. It uses a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus with sensing provided by an Adafruit INA260 sensor. And you can read about the part of it that depends on CircuitPython Blinka. The website is called Laurentius. The CircuitPython Weekly Newsletter is a community-run newsletter emailed every Tuesday. Complete archives are on GitHub, or actually, that's not GitHub, is it? That's the adafruitdaily.com. It highlights the latest CircuitPython-related news from around the web, including Python and MicroPython developments. We invite you to contribute. You can edit the draft on GitHub and submit a pull request. Ann B would also love your tips on Twitter. And I forget what your handle is, Ann. It's something obvious. So let us know. So yeah, send your tips to Ann Engineer on Twitter. And now for the state of CircuitPython libraries and Blinka, I will hand this over to Scott Tanut.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so the state of CircuitPython libraries and Blinka is a section where we take kind of a statistics, hopefully objective view of the health of the project, meant to ground us in kind of some numbers and some realities in case, just to prevent us from getting too excited and ignorant. So I'll do the first two sections and then hand it off to other folks for the latter two. So overall, in the last week, we had 45 pull requests merged, which is awesome, from 12 different authors. Some new names on here. Marty McGuire, who is actually paid by Adafruit, so disclosure there. Dunkman 00's done a few things before and is continuing to do things. Arms22 looks new. Arudin is new as well. And so thank you to all of those new folks, and thank you to all of the 12 authors for all of those pull requests. We had 9 reviewers, which is also a really good number. It's been consistently growing. And we always remind folks just that reviewing is super critical to the health of the project, because the more reviewers we have, the more authors we can support. So we always encourage people to reach out to us. If you're interested in reviewing, we'd love the help. We'd love to grow this 9 reviewers number even higher. So please let us know if you want to help out, test some stuff, and take a look at some code, and let me know that it looks okay. So that's pull request wise, and then issues wise, we had 22 closed issues by 13 people, 12 opened by 11 people. So we're net down 10, which is awesome. We like to see that we're not like kind of just gaining and gaining and gaining. It's also issue triage, and going through issues is really helpful as well. So if you're interested in participating in that, that sounds good. And then overall, I would say that things are going really well. We just surpassed 22,000 people on Discord. The CircuitPython project is being adopted by more and more companies, which is great. And we're seeing more and more people involved, which is awesome. On the core side, it sounds like Jeff's making a lot of headway on the background task stuff. So we should be able to get 6.0 stable, maybe not in the next month, but around that, I would say, if all goes well. So that's very exciting. 6.0 is going to be a big deal. And thanks for Jeff for leading that. On the library side, we're again, just getting more and more stuff going. And I just see all these improvements coming through thanks to Dylan and Kattni. So still growing and evolving there. And then Blinka continues to support more and more boards as well. So that's overall. On the core side, so just for the core CircuitPython C side of things, numbers wise, we had 10 pull requests merged, which is I think a bit high for us, which is awesome. And new authors, Arudin again, Arms22 again, and I believe that's probably through translations. So thank you to them for improving translations, and Dunkman00 as well. We had 3 reviewers, myself, Dan, and Hierophect. So like I said earlier, we're always looking for more reviewers, especially on the core side. So if you want to dive into the core but don't know where to start, any of us who do work on the core, Jeff, Dan, Dave, Lucian, like we're all happy to help you out if you want to do that. So please reach out if you want to get more involved in the core. Happy to ramp people up. Pull request wise, we have 17 open pull requests. A lot of those are new, so it's pretty standard for us. That number is a bit higher, but ideally it would be we would be a little bit through those. So if you do have open pull requests, like maybe 30 days older, what is the term I'm looking for? Anyway, take a look at the old pull requests and make sure that they're still valid. Let's try not to just leave old pull requests standing by. Let's make sure that they're moving forwards, or we can close them and we can still comment and stuff on closed PRs. So be aware of that. Issues wise, we had 5 closed issues by 3 people and 3 opened by 3 people. So we're just a net down a smidge, which is good. Last week, I think we're up. So it's good. At least we're going the right direction. We have 322 open issues, which you can check out on GitHub. Milestone wise, we have 5 issues not assigned to milestone, and we're definitely haven't done our diligence to get updated to kind of our 6.0 plans. So I'll try to take a pass at this today and get us kind of up to speed for 6.0. But if anybody has urgent issues that we should kind of block being stable with 6.0 on, please just chime in and let us know, because there's nothing super major I'm aware of besides the performance degradation we saw with the low power stuff, but Jeff's fixing that. So if there's anything else critical to get 6.0 stable, please let us know. Otherwise, I think I want to push to get 6.0 stable pretty quickly. So that should be exciting. And that's it for the core. Jeff, do you want me to MC the next 2, or do you want to?
No, I'm happy to.
Okay.
So for the libraries, we will hand it over to Kattni.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff.
I'm not sure what else to say because you will say everything.
Yep, absolutely. So we had, this is across all the CircuitPython libraries. Anything that's Adafruit _CircuitPython _library name is covered here. So we had 34 pull requests merged by 6 authors, including Marty McGuire, who is new to contributing to us, but not new to Adafruit, and 8 reviewers, which is excellent. I'm always happy to see the reviewer number higher than the author number. It means we've got a lot of people involved. The oldest 2 pull requests we merged were 157 days and 119 days, so that's really good that we are picking up some of the older stuff. And then the rest of them were a week or somewhere between 0 and 1 days. We had 15, that leaves us with 33 open pull requests. That is incredible, actually, because we were much higher than that last I knew. So that's good to see. We had 15 issues closed by 10 people and 8 opened by 7 people, leaving us with 165 open issues. 4 of those are good first issues. So that means 4 of those issues are a good place to start if you are new to programming, new to CircuitPython, new to the project, new to Git and GitHub. All of those are covered under good first issues as a good place to start. If you are interested in this information, check out circuitpython.org/contributing. As its name states, it's a great place to go if you'd like to contribute. It has all of the information we've talked about here, including open pull requests and all open issues across all the libraries, as well as library infrastructure issues, which are sometimes little fixes that are necessary to bring our libraries up to standard, the standard that we hold them to. In the last 7 days, there were a lot of updated libraries, too many to list, so we didn't list them in the thing. Most of it was README updates or CI stuff. There was a bad link to Discord in the READMEs, and somebody caught that, so we updated most of the libraries. So it's good to see that those are all released and up to date. And that's where we are with the libraries.
Thank you, Kattni. And with that, I will pass it to Maker Melissa to give us a report on the state of Blinka.
Hello. So Blinka is our CircuitPython compatibility layer for single board computers such as the Raspberry Pi. And this week we had 1 pull request merged by 1 author and 1 reviewer. And there's currently 2 open pull requests. I believe one of those is a draft one, so it may be a while. There were 2 closed issues by 2 people, 1 open by 1 person, leaving a net of 24 open issues. And there were 3,937 Pypga downloads in the last week. And we currently have 52 boards supported by Blinka. And that's it.
Thank you, Melissa. And with that, we will move on to Hug Reports. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of our antidote to bug reports. It's a time to highlight the positive things that are going on around us in the immediate community, on GitHub, on the larger internet, or indeed in the world. I will lead things off, and then we will go down the list in alphabetical order. I'll be referring over here to the notes document to catch anybody who left us notes. And when we get to the bottom of the alphabet, we'll go back up to the top. If I happen to skip over you by accident, please speak up, drop a little note in the text chat, and I will get back to you. In any case, my hug reports for the week are a group hug and a big hug for Kattni for getting me up to speed to run this meeting and for being there to dive in if necessary. And up next is Jerry.
Hi, just a big group hug to everybody this week.
Thank you. And Kattni.
Hello. All right, so first up, hug to you, Jeff, for running your first meeting. Going quite well, so thank you very much for being willing to jump in and do that. I have a hug report for Alvaro for continuing to translate guides. Currently, he's working on the Circuit Player Ground Express guide, which includes other guides, so he's starting first with yet another guide. And that's all been going really well, and it's looking like it's going to start driving improvements to the Learn system in terms of how translations are handled, because right now we have to do a separate guide that is the translation, and they want to completely gut that and make it so that things load based on localization and that sort of thing. And so it's really good to see that they are we basically needed to see some translations happen before we could make it a priority, and translations are happening, so it's becoming a priority hopefully in the near future. I have a hug report for Melissa for helping me test PWM on Blinka and quickly fixing a bug I found. To Mad Bodger for verifying my LED wiring diagram after messing up wiring up 8 LEDs to a shift register pretty hard. I needed verification that I did, even though it was super simple, it was a single LED connected to a Raspberry Pi. I needed to verify that it was right, and it was. And finally, to community moderators for continuing to handle everything coming our way. The Adafruit community wouldn't be the safe, welcoming place it is without this team. Any one of us alone would have burned out spectacularly by now, but we have the support of a team, and it makes all the difference in the world. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Kattni. Now I have notes from KMatch98, who is text only. They say thanks to Maker Melissa for her patience and debug support, and Fpga for coding heavy lifting, and KGW for support in updates to label.py in Adafruit display text. And with that, I will hand it to Maker Melissa.
Hi, just a second here.
Hello again.
Actually, can you get back to me in just like a minute?
Yeah, that would be fine. So we will skip past Mr. Certainly, who is lurking. I do have notes from Stargirl, who says hugs to CircuitPython maintainers for having a code base that is relatively readable. And that's not faint praise, that's real praise. So thank you, Stargirl. Melissa, are you ready?
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Okay, I have a report for Carter for looking into some issues regarding the FTG32H. One for KMatch98 for persisting and fixing the display text library. It seems to be working perfectly now. Have report to Kattni for adding the PWM section to the Raspberry Pi guide, and also for finding the bug with PWM out on Blinka. And a head report to FEDE2 for putting together the election calendar project. And
All right, thank you. Scott, you are up next.
Hello. Hug reports from me. First, a hug report to Stargirl for her first ban as a moderator. So thanks for joining the moderation team. Always good to bring the ban hammer down on spammers. Hug report to Kattni for documenting how to run the meeting and onboarding Jeff. And hug report to Jeff for running the meeting. So thanks to both of you. Hug report to Greg Davil for helping getting CircuitPython going on the Orange Crab. I need to look into it further. I got a bit distracted later in the weekend, but it looks pretty neat. It's got DDR3 on it. That's why we have like megabytes of RAM to access. And he was telling me that he also copies all of the code into RAM as well, because the RAM actually runs twice as fast as the CPU, which is pretty neat. And lastly, hug report to FED2 for the Election Cal Learn Guide, and to Maker Melissa for the remake on it. I'm excited to see that. I think some folks are starting to spot it, and we're making progress. I think we have about half the states. So thanks to Patrick and Felice as well for helping, and Aaron adding state data as well. That's
Awesome.
it for me.
It's very America-centric, but, very important.
It is, but and it's like most countries don't have this like patchwork of different ways to elect things. So yeah.
All right. Well, looping out back to the top, we've got a couple of lurkers, and after that comes Brent.
Hello, group hug, and hug report to Scott for discussing some interesting ideas with me on Friday about CircuitPython, and also running network API questions by me.
All right. I have some notes from C. Grover, who is text only, and he thanks me for my work on Microlab, although, of course, it's Zoltan who really is due all the kudos for Microlab. I did a little bit of integration. And a group hug for the team and community. And that brings us to Charles.
Just a group hug today.
All right. Thank you. And moving on to Dan.
Hello. I'd like to thank a user I hadn't seen before, Riggs on GitHub, who pointed out an issue with how we are doing something on the NRF 52840 boards that has to do with working around a hardware bug. And it means we might have to reduce how much RAM we devote to the soft device, maybe either reduce the number of connections or just reduce the size of some buffers. But that was very helpful, what they said. Thanks to Kevin Walters, who continues to seem to spend his entire life working on CircuitPython and finding issues and documenting things, and also doing some neat projects that involve a lot of code as well. And thanks to Jerry, who sent me some spare hardware he had, which has been going to be very helpful because some of the stuff is out of stock all over the country. All right, thanks very much.
All right. Dave P. is lurking. I have notes from David Gloud, who sends a hug report to Tanut for the deep dive with Scott around CircuitPython networking APIs, and a hug report to Maker Melissa for the display I/O on Blinka and other mini PyTFT Learn Guide. Deshipu and Alvaro are lurking, and that brings us to Foamy Guy.
All right. For this week, I would like to give a hug out to Scott for the weekly deep dives. Definitely been enjoying those on Friday. It's a nice way to kind of get started going on the weekends. To KMatch98 for patiently working through all the issues in display text and fixing those as they popped up. To Jerry for his work again on the RFM 9X and also the RFM 6.9 libraries. I was playing with those a little bit more over the weekend, so definitely appreciating the work there. To Dylan D. Hirata for automating the fix in the Discord links of the README for most of the libraries this past week. And then lastly, a group hug for everybody.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Hierophect.
So this week, thanks to Scott and Dahan Zamin for their help in attempting to get me on WeChat. Sadly, they both spent a good amount of time trying to help me out with that, and unfortunately, I have been marked as suspicious, and perhaps I am banned forever. Who knows why? Mysterious reasons. But in any case, their efforts were greatly appreciated. Thanks to you, Jeff, for helping walk me through the RGB matrix code and reviewing the stuff that I'm submitting with my timer allocator. I hope I didn't sound, I don't know. Thank you very much for your help, and I really appreciate it. I felt like we got a little confused in some of those messages.
Yeah, I missed the mark, and yeah, that's fine.
Didn't mean to actually imply anything by those messages, but I feel like I was rude somehow. So anyway, and also thank you, Paint Your Dragon, for their review help on the timer stuff as well. And thanks to IKEA for making handy furniture, because I just moved into my apartment and I really needed that. So that's it for me.
All right. That wraps Hug reports, and we are going to move on to status updates. During status updates, we'd like you to let us know about what you've been up to in the last week or since the last time you had time to stop by, and what you hope to accomplish coming up in the future. And, in this time of needing a little extra, if you have something that is going on that is positive and you want to share, like a project you've been doing, please feel free to drop that into the list. So I will start. We'll go in alphabetical order just like last time until everybody has had a chance to give their status updates. So as Scott mentioned before, I've been working on this stuff with background tasks and ticks. That basically took my time last week. And this week it is looking to be more of the same, but I'm hopefully in the home stretch. I think that the code is essentially ready on the STM, no, not on the STM, on the SAMD family chips, and is close on the NRF chips. And so it's just testing some of these other chips and making sure that the basics work. And then once that pull request is in, I've got a whole list of other fun stuff that I get to start on next. And of course, I'm running this meeting. That's exciting. And thanks all for bearing with me as I bumble through it. And with that, I will pass it down to Jerry.
If I can find the unmute, there it is. I'm in the middle of a really cool thunderstorm right now, so if I disappear, you'll know why. Pretty exciting stuff, though. And otherwise, I have no idea what happened to this week. Did lots of stuff, but none of it overly notable. Just chunking along, but I don't know where the week went. And next week, be more of the same. I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's very honest. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel the same way, but, try to say something, right? All right, Katney, how about you? You always have an extensive list because you take notes.
Yeah, it's more that I have a list of to-dos and I mark them done and they have dates. So then I can say, hey, I know what happened since last Monday, only because it's the only way I get anything done.
I hear you.
So let's see, last week, updated the board files on GitHub for the TXB0104. The version that was up there didn't have the ground connected, which was either Rev A or Rev B. There's now a Rev C, and so that's been updated. Created a fritzing object for the PCF8591, updated the BH1750 fritzing with product copy, mostly finished the guide to running the CircuitPython weekly meeting, which is what you followed to do what you're doing right now.
It's going well enough.
I think so. Started the guide for the PMSA 300i. The fritzing's created, the PCB files are uploaded, and I ordered one, so I can actually finish the guide. I got Alvaro started on translating the Circuit Playground Express guide. It's huge and includes mirrored pages from other guides, so he's translating the make code for CPX guide first before moving on to the CPX guide proper. I removed the PyPortal library from PyPI. I had done most of the work already, but apparently neglected to delete the project from PyPI. That's been fixed. So all the stuff to get it to stop deploying was done, but we never removed it from PyPI. Verified that I have the PM 2.5 air quality sensor for reasons. And I updated the BMP 280 guide with the STEMMA QT version, and I wrote up the welcome blurb for the Discord server and got it proofed by the team, so that's ready to go. So this week, I need to create an Imitation Kattni Discord account and join the Adafruit server to verify what the experience looks like so we can deploy the welcome channel appropriately and verify our upcoming welcome screen. I need to set up said welcome screen on the Discord server to point people to a few key channels and a little more detail than the names. Update the CircuitPython on Linux and Raspberry Pi guide with PWM out, now supported by Blinka to pulse an LED and control a servo. That is basically done. I'm waiting on a PR to pass, which I think is actually passing now. I haven't had a chance to look at it. And then I add code, and I'm actually done with that. And then did that since writing up these notes. And then update this CircuitPython servo guide to mention Raspberry Pi as it's now supported. Also done since writing up the notes. Once I receive the PMSA, I need to finish the guide, and then I'm going to be updating the PM 2.5 guide to use the fancy new library that was written up to support the PMSA, which is pretty much the same sensor in a different house. So, but the wiring is different enough. One of them is UART, and the other one is I2C. So needs to be two separate guides. So the PM 2.5 guide will remain a separate guide, and but the content will be very similar, and the code in theory will actually be the same. Depends on how gnarly it looks to have one piece of code to do both. I need to figure out how to, so once I'm done with the PMSA guide and updating the PM 2.5 guide, I'm going to be updating the contributing to Git and GitHub guide to have references to the main default branch, and while still including master until we have moved the entire project over. I've given this a lot of consideration and have some idea what to do. It's just I needed to have some time set aside to do that, which will happen after I'm done with those other two guides. And then once the guide is updated, because I didn't want to move forward with changing any of the libraries from master to main until we had somewhere to point people on what to do with it. So once that guide is updated, I will begin by moving a few highly trafficked CircuitPython libraries over to main, and we'll have documentation to point people to. So if you don't know how to do it yourself, you can check out the guide and you'll be able to help other people, and B, the guide will be available. So that's kind of the plan there. And for a while, it's going to have both, because we're going to do this over time. We're not going to do it all at once. So just be aware that there's still going to be references to master for a while. And then I need to create the accounts to get the PyPI download stats going again. Just haven't had a chance to do that. It's on the list. And then help a community member with submitting a library to the community bundle. And all of that is what I'm up to.
Thank you. So Maker Melissa, you are on deck, but right now I have notes from KMatch98, who's text only. Last week, they made bug fixes and updates to Adafruit display text to eliminate zero-sized tile grids and provide memory-reduced option when background color is absent. This week, they plan to update the Sparkline library per Fpga's recommendations. And in other projects, the demo revision 1 of the mechanical 7-segment numeric display. And Maker Melissa, how are you? Same as earlier?
I'm good. I'm ready. I just was doing too many things at once earlier. Okay, so last week I finished writing the Blinka Display IO PyPortal library guide. I built the election calendar project on Raspberry Pi and wrote it up in a blog post. I fixed a bug in Blinka related to pulse width modulation and the duty cycle that Kattni found. I fixed Arduino image reader e-ink 1 bit per pixel bitmap displaying. And I started working on a couple of e-ink bonnet guides, and I fixed a header name issue with the Learning Guide repo. This week I'm going to finish up writing the e-ink bonnet guides and whatever happens to come out.
All right. Tanut is on deck. I have notes from Stargirl, who says she wrote a blog post about how to set up the ADC on the SAMD21 from scratch. Go ahead, Scott.
Hello. On Friday during my stream, I added JSON.load support for any object with read into. I just realized this morning that Socket doesn't actually have read into, so I was trying to figure out how to do that. It turns out request response objects can have a .raw property that is a file-like object that should have read into. So I'll wiggle it through there. So it'll be fine. I don't know, like, yeah, historical APIs can be such a problem. Like Socket has receive into, it doesn't have read into.
Yeah, on Unix, there's some reason those are different, and I think no one actually understands what that is.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I don't either. So I think I figured it out. I just have to add a raw property to our requests object that can do it. So it'll be one small object allocation for it, but that's not the end of the world. I made good progress on the Esp32 Spy Reorganization, which has been my kind of focus. And I'm trying to get it all working with it all kind of reorganized and shuffled around. And I'm having trouble actually starting a TCP connection. So I'm going to look at that hopefully today, but definitely tomorrow. I need to disable the existing native networking APIs. I don't want to use them in 6, so I definitely need to do that, and then we'll be able to do betas once we've removed all the 6.0 API stuff that we wanted to remove. And then if that gets too tiring, if the ESP32 Spy Nina stuff gets too tiring, I'm going to start sketching out Wi-Fi and socket pool APIs, which will be the newer APIs for native networking that will basically mirror the coprocessor Python level stuff rather than having special access at all.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like enough for 1 week.
I think it's enough for more than 1 week, but I'll let you know next week. I will stream on Friday, so people can always check that out as well.
Sounds good. Bringing it around to the front of the alphabet, we're back to you, Brent.
Hello. Last week, Scott and I talked about network APIs, and then Friday, I got excited and updated MiniMQTT for compatibility with CPython sockets using new socket pool and other things that Scott discussed. I definitely want to reduce the amount of allocations with like read from, and we're like generating a lot of byte strings in there, and I want to make sure those are fixed length instead of variable. And then I'm also working through a bug with MiniMQTT, which doesn't allow you to send really large files like images. Not sure what the problem is. It could be on like the client's side, but also Eclipse's Paho does the same thing. So it's like, oh, what is it? I'll figure it out. But I'm taking a break today, and I'm spending today looking at Jinja templating to generate code.py files. I'm starting with like a blink.py. I'm going to do like a web form to kind of learn how to do Flash templating and then routing. And it seems like it would work so far. And I want something showable by Wednesday's show and tell. That's about it.
All right, cool. C. Grover is text only. Dan, you are on deck. So C. Grover writes that he had a breakthrough with the automated Eurorack module cable detection scheme. The stable prototype is on the bench and working. It can detect up to 8 attached TS input cables with or without a signal in less than 1 millisecond, converting the code to a library to make it easier to use. A new range slicer PCB design for the module is in the works as well. And he is trying to digest more of Microlab's capabilities. Have a couple of Euro clue ideas that will depend on me getting over a hurdle or two, particularly involving FFT functions. May need a brain transplant. We're always ready to try and answer questions, so please ask them in the text chat when they come to mind. Like I may have mentioned, Charles is lurking, so Dan, you are up.
Hello. Okay. So, as been true for several weeks now, I'm continuing to work on the HCI version of BLEIO that lets us talk to the ESP32, which can come up in a mode that runs Bluetooth rather than Wi-Fi, and also in the future, though it's not the goal right now, we could maybe talk also to Bluetooth USB dongles. So I finished writing the code to do advertising, and now I have to start testing it, and that's what I'm doing right now. And then after that, the next thing, the eventual goal is to a narrow but deep example that say we should be able to run Bluefruit Connect and have it talk to some board like the Pi Portal or the Airlift, the Metro M4 Airlift. And then the other thing that happens is, as is usual, people have trouble with bootloaders, and I look into various problems with them. The latest is that someone with a Chromebook is having some trouble. So we'll see if that's worth working on. Okay.
All right. Dave P is lurking. David, are you ready to try out your mic?
Yes, do you hear me? I
do, yes.
Okay. So I've been playing with my air quality sensor. So that's the PMS5003. And actually there are two CircuitPython libraries, one from Timaroni, one from Adafruit, and both failed on me because maybe I've got a crappy cable, or I lose some bytes in the packets and then it fails. And one code that works well for me is the Learn Guide from 2 years ago, because that one is retrying, trying to find the beginning of the frame, checking the checksum, and all kinds of nice things. So yeah, I've made an inventory of what was available in Python and CircuitPython from Adafruit and Timaroni, and I tried to figure out what's the best way to support that, and who should do the work, and maybe I would have to do PR. Also, I've made some sorting in my office, and I found a mini PTFT 240 by 240 that was lost for the last 3 months, and a few other stuff. And so now I've got 3 devices which are 240 by 240 screen, 2 button, and BLE, which is a Pi with that stuff and the Bluetooth of the Pi, the gizmo on a Circuit Bluefruit Express, and the clue. So I'm going to try to run the same code on the tree and maybe find a way to use exactly the same code on the tree.
All right, thank you, and we'll see you down a little later for In the Weeds, I think. Let's see. I have notes from Alvaro, and then Fpga is on deck. Alvaro says last week the Spanish translation at 100%, and this week testing new JSON library from Tanut, slowly learning, hoping to review one day. I'm sure you can review right now, actually, Alvaro. We'll be happy to see you do it. All right, Hierophect is on deck. Fpga, what's up?
Right. For last week, I was testing out a few of the PRs for display text. I managed to finish up the majority of the functionality for my Gorillas game, I think I mentioned last week. So it now works for playing 2 players on a single device. If anybody is interested in that, I can give you a link. I got it published up on GitHub. I also started on the weekend over the radio version, so my goal is to make it 2-player over the air with the LoRa Featherwings, and I got it set up enough to where one Pygamer will start up the game and then send the information over to the other one, and then it will sort of draw the same skyline on it. So still lots of work to do, but it was definitely really neat to see that get beamed across and then drawn correctly over the weekend here. A couple other things I did last week. I added support in the PyBadger library for the Circuit Playground Bluefruit with a gizmo plugged into it. I also played around with MySQL over the weekend a little bit. I had never really messed with MySQL too much. I was working on reviewing a PR that is an example of how to store sensor data into a database using Blinka. And then lastly, I helped work on fixing the Discord links in some of those README files in the library. For next week, I'm hoping to finish up the wireless functionality in the Gorillas game and get that totally playable with 2 Pygamers. I am hoping to add support for one more device to the PyBadger, the Halloween M4. I have a RTC breakout I want to get soldered up and kind of learn the ropes of. I've never really messed with them too much. And then lastly, I got a couple of items in from DigiKey this past week, and some of those were the Esp32 S2s. So I'm really excited to start playing around with those.
Cool. Hierophect, are you ready to wrap up status updates for us?
I am so ready. I was born ready. This last week for me was actually kind of slow because I was moving. I am now in a Boston apartment, but hopefully things will be calmed down a little bit, and I'm not in an office that heats up to 85 degrees anymore, so I should be a little bit more productive, hopefully. I worked mostly on STM32 timers, continuing from the last week and a half. This last week was I focused on working on the RGB matrix code, which was using, along with every other module we had for the STM32, had a hard-coded timer in it, and I've been getting in there and changing it over to a dynamic timer to match Pulse I/O and eventually Rotary I/O. And I also spent a little bit of time identifying a regression, which I thought was due to my code, but it's actually on main right now, which is a little bit not great for Pulse I/O, which is no longer working and may not have been working since we introduced the low power feature. But it's not a super high popularity module, I guess, so we just may not have run into it. But I'm working on both of those this week, continuing those, and hopefully getting both of those PRs in, both to the Protomatter library and to CircuitPython, so the new timer allocator is totally in there. I may do the Pulse I/O regression fix as a separate PR just because the timer thing has been in the works for a while and probably needs to wrap up. And then after that, I'm thinking about just kind of doing Rotary I/O really quick, which should be pretty trivial with the new timer system. If it's not, I may put it on hold. And then after that, just kind of evaluating priorities for the STM32 versus new stuff like the Esp32 S2, and whether I'm needed on anything there or on IMX stuff or whatever else needs doing. So that's my plan for the next week.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to close up status updates, and we will move over to the last section of this meeting called In the Weeds. If you have a topic that requires larger discussion, trying to create a community consensus, trying to solicit ideas, this is the time for it. At this time, we have one topic for In the Weeds, so I will hand things over to David Glaude. Are you still there, David?
I'm okay.
Hello.
So there is that nice stuff from Gadgetoid. So Gadgetoid is one guy working for Pimaroni, and with a friend of his, maybe R13, and they made a website that helps you check the pinout of various Raspberry Pi, Hat, Bonnet, and other stuff like that. And it's a bit independent from Pimoroni, and I think the source code and everything is open source except for the logo. And I had similar kind of issue with the feather world, where Pimoroni made a feather wing that is not compatible with the Wi-Fi airlift or something like that, because they use the pin for doing something which we need for something else. So with that world growing with more and more feather and feather wing with various capabilities, it's difficult to know before getting the hardware if this combo will work or not. Like, am I going to be able to use this and this and this? So what is also inside Keynote XYZ is they made a multi-add stuff for the Pi where you can put multiple boards on it. And when you do that, you want to check if the same pin are in use or not. If you need twice the serial for something, then you cannot do two together, like a GPS and whatever else. So yeah, I believe there is a need for that, and somebody should work on something like that. Also because you've got the Adafruit stuff, but you've got all of the other vendors which are also making feather wings or feather. And so there should be a central place which is neutral, where people can submit their board, send a picture, say which pin they use for what, so that, yeah, it's easier for the people.
So,
well, I know that we have the website. I believe it's called Awesome Feather. Is that right, Scott? Is that?
I think so. I mean, that's just an. I think you are hitting on something that we could do better. But yeah, there are a couple places that we at least catalog what the devices are. We don't go so far as like pin out conflicts.
So you're looking basically for a compatibility matrix of some sort.
And also a kind of inventory of all of the boards which are available from various sources, because that's what it also gives you. But you should have a look at Keynote XYZ. I mean, it really helps. With the number of boards I have for the Raspberry Pi, it really helps. I don't have that number for the Feather world, but I already found some incompatibility with the few I had. So.
Yeah, so I think there are existing lists of feathers and feather wings. Like this awesome feather looks really good that I think Anne's curated. I think the additional thing that we don't have is a good pin compatibility thing.
Yeah, you would need to gather a bunch of metadata to say, well, this board devotes pin A0 to this function, or it's on the standard SPI, but it has devices at these SPI addresses. And that's a lot of metadata to gather before you can begin to show a compatibility matrix or do a compatibility check. So, you know, what is the work? What is the trade-off in terms of doing that? I'm not sure.
The thing, like, I don't know how it started with the Keynote stuff, but basically once it's there, people can submit their new board and fill in some text and some metadata, and everything is automatically generated from there. So once you have the basic infrastructure started, then any new feather wing will be able to get there without too much work for whoever is hosting that. Then there is the work for the existing, which is maybe you, but yeah. Yeah, it's tricky, yes. Sometimes it's difficult to know in advance that this is not going to work with this. Well, it's just an idea.
All right. Does anybody have something else to ask, or did you want to go ahead with your second item?
I mean, I think for this, somebody's just got to start it. So I would encourage you to start it, David.
Yeah.
So that
yeah,
we
well,
would know, for instance, what the metadata format looks like. I mean, is there like a JSON file for a board and it describes each pin by its position or something? That would kind of seem to be the basic.
the pin are, they've got a physical location. It's easy on the Pi. And then, yeah, I've just checked the markdown for the script describing the board and what it does. You have to send a picture of a certain size. And then basically it says which pin are in use and for what. And then the compatibility is just checking are the same pin in use, except for power and ground.
Is the functionality of checking board compatibility something that is on pinout.xyz?
Yeah,
I see how to look at particular cards, but not a compatibility check.
Yeah, I need to find the link, but there is a place where you can put multiple boards together, and it will tell you that there is a conflict because they both use SPI. Or maybe there is a CS, and then, but that kind of thing. Okay, I need to find that link. I will update the node when I find it.
Great.
Okay. The other topic is on CircuitPython.org. You've got all of those boards, and some of them are partially supported because maybe we don't have the core, everything in the core, or maybe they use hardware which are not supported, like they do Wi-Fi on ASP8266, or they use some sensor that are not supported yet. And the problem is that, well, when I do virtual shopping and I try to figure out what am I going to order next, I go there and hopefully I know.
I stopped hearing David.
Me too. It's like it stopped. Still says green, but I can't hear him anymore. So I think in general, we're trying to be better about this, right? Like Summersoft just added the list of all of the native core modules that we support per board on the boards page. So like that's in there now. And that's done on a per version basis. And then I know that I've been more careful when I've been adding new boards with stuff we don't support, like the Wio terminal, that like I add a note to the description that says like, by the way, this isn't supported yet.
Yeah, I did some of that when I was describing the SAM E54 explained board, because we've got the non-supported CAN bus, the non-supported Ethernet, the non-supported QTouch, and maybe a couple of other items.
Right.
And of course, you know, there's almost always going to be some aspect of the hardware that we don't fully support just because of the nature of how complicated microcontrollers are. I have a feeling that in the case of the Espruino Wi-Fi, I think you don't run Nina firmware on the ESP8266, so that is the major block that's missing there. David, are you going to try reconnecting, or
whether he can hear
shall we
us
just
at all?
continue without us? Yeah, somebody want to suggest to him to try reconnecting? So anyway, yeah, in the case of the Espruino, it seems like there's something major that's unsupported. And it does seem to be the case that that's not called out on that page. So updating that text and improving it would be definitely a good pull request. And there's the issue that's been filed, but yeah, that would be a good first project, kind of revising the text. So thanks for noting that. How do I label it? Good first issue. There we go. All right, thank you. It's a new good first issue. So
It looks like you're trying to talk, but we can't hear you. So I think it's fair to say that we recognize it's a problem, but we need just help adding those notes to the stuff where we don't have notes yet.
All right. Well, I was typing a note to David, but probably I should move on to wrapping up the meeting since we are done with the items from In the Weeds. So thank you, everyone, for attending. This has been the CircuitPython Weekly Meeting for July 13th, 2020. Our next weekly meeting will fall on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Refer to that calendar if you need more information, and we hope to see you all there. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, everyone.